Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, something big is happening in the hallways of Minnesota. There are heavy decisions coming on who the next general manager will be. The quarterback room has turned into a full-blown puzzle, and key pieces on offense are looking at the future with a very different light in their eyes. The defense also had some intense behind-the-scenes moments. And to top it all off, a potential trade has surfaced that shakes anyone wearing purple and gold. But before we dive in, a quick message. Subscribe to the channel. It is free and it helps this space grow in a huge way. And drop a comment. This space belongs to everyone. The fans' voices truly matter. Here is the deal. The Vikings quarterback room has become a messy game board, and that is not an exaggeration. After everything that went down last week, the team entered the offseason under real pressure to find a true plan B. This is not just about having a backup. It is about having someone who can hold things together if everything starts to fall apart. And that is where J.J. McCarthy comes in. Fans wanted to see the kid grow, no doubt about it, but the knee injury wiped out his rookie season. When he came back, the results were all over the place. Some games made you think, relax, there is room to grow. Other games felt like the walls were closing in on him. That weighs on the locker room, and it weighs on the stands. And this situation got even heavier when the former front office boss, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, was fired. A change at the top changes everything. It changes who makes the calls. It changes what counts as a priority. And for a team already more than $40 million over the salary cap, every move becomes a chess match. Then the painful reminder hits. Sam Darnold was here. He left. He went to Seattle. And now he is in the Super Bowl. That leaves any fan in purple and gold with a bitter taste. It is not jealousy. It is that feeling of, this was supposed to be us. Now the Vikings need to rebuild the position with limited money and the 18th pick in the draft. There is no room for luxury shopping. That is why trade talk picked up steam. And the name that keeps coming up is Mac Jones from the 49ers. He is not the most electric quarterback on the planet, but there is something there. He has experience, he was a first-round pick, and he delivered a solid season as a starter when he was needed. Most importantly, his cap hit would be low, around $3.5 million. For a team squeezed tight, that sounds like music, but it is not that simple. When a quarterback shows he can still win games, the entire league takes notice. And people are already saying the Cardinals, Browns, and Jets could jump into the mix. That is when the price goes up. What starts as an acceptable third-round pick can turn into a second-rounder fast. And I will be straight with you. Paying a second-round pick for a guy meant to be competition or insurance is a big gamble. I get Kevin O'Connell's side of this. He wants real competition for McCarthy in 2026. He wants someone who walks in and says, if you slip, I am playing. That can speed up a young quarterback's development, but you cannot fix one hole by creating another in the draft. This roster needs depth. I want to hear from you. Would you spend a high pick on a quarterback like that? Or would you rather bet on development and use that capital to strengthen the rest of the team? Talk to me in the comments. And stay right here because the next story involves a powerful name out of Denver circling that general manager chair. That could change everything. Look at how the general manager seat has turned into bar talk all over Minnesota. The team fired Kwesi Adofo-Mensah on January 30th. And they did it right in the middle of the hiring cycle. That is not normal. And when something is not normal, there is usually something big behind it. Fans in purple and gold were already swallowing hard watching Sam Darnold reach the Super Bowl with Seattle. He was ours last season. Then the Vikings let him walk. They bet on the J.J. McCarthy plan, and it did not pay off. Add that to draft classes that failed to deliver what the team needed, and that was it. Patience ran out. Then a familiar name started circulating, but it is not one you throw on the table as a sure thing right away. The buzz centers on George Paton. He is the current general manager of the Denver Broncos. This is coming from strong sources. Respected voices are saying he has emerged as a candidate. When credible reporters say that, it means someone inside the building whispered it. Paton has deep ties to the Vikings. He spent more than a decade here working under Rick Spielman, and he eventually became assistant general manager. This is not a stranger walking in asking where the meeting room is. He knows the pressure. He knows what defend the North really means, and he knows what this fan base demands when the team takes 2 steps back. But there is a catch. He is still in Denver. His contract is still active. The talk is that the Broncos want to extend him, but nothing has been finalized publicly. That is where the what if begins. If an extension does not happen, the door could open down the road, and under that scenario, the Vikings could be willing to wait. That is why another key figure enters the picture. It is someone outsiders barely notice. But fans here know him well, Rob Brzezinski. He will hold things together as interim general manager, at least through the draft. He has been in the building for 27 years. He understands the cap, he understands contracts, and he understands financial gymnastics. And gymnastics is exactly what this team will be doing. My read from the stands is simple. If the Vikings are truly eyeing Peyton, that sends a message. They want someone more rooted in football operations leading the way. Someone who brings confidence to scouting and to the coaching staff. But waiting comes at a cost. While that happens, the quarterback room remains unsettled. The cap keeps tightening, and the roster cannot just sit still. There is another layer to this. If a new general manager eventually comes in with authority, he could pull the rope in a different direction than Kevin O'Connell. He could speed up decisions. He could put the brakes on others. And suddenly the season starts taking shape in February before we even see a single snap. So let me ask you, is it worth waiting for someone like that? Or does Minnesota need to hire someone now and clean up this mess loudly and clearly? Stick around, because the next one dives deep into defensive drama and involves a big name who nearly walked out the door. You know that feeling when you sense smoke in the locker room but nobody says anything out loud? That is exactly what this was. And this story explains why the defense became such a sensitive topic behind the scenes. In recent days, reports surfaced that one of the leaders on staff was unhappy with the direction things were going. This was not pettiness. It was real concern about decisions, roster building, and that familiar Sunday issue, lack of depth when injuries start piling up. That is when fans in purple and gold lose their minds, because the bill comes due fast. Only after Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was fired did the full picture come into focus. The name at the center of this tension is Brian Flores. And yes, the defensive coordinator let his contract expire after the 2025 season before signing a new deal. That does not happen often. That is a statement. He explored head coaching opportunities and other openings around the league. In the end, he came back with a new contract. What leaked out is that he was not comfortable with how the former general manager handled certain football operations. Adolfo-Mensah came in with a learning-on-the-job approach, and at times that clashes with people who live on the field. That friction apparently became a daily weight. There were even negotiations that required Rob Brzezinski to step in. Kevin O'Connell also acted as a bridge during tense conversations. That tells you how deep the strain went. And there is a point that hits anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. The defense improved dramatically thanks to smart veteran additions, and Flores played a major role in that. Blake Cashman, Jonathan Greenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, those guys arrived and changed the identity of the unit. But when the draft does not deliver, you become dependent on clever contracts and hidden gems. That puts the team on a razor's edge. 1 week you look solid. The next week, depth collapses. The Vikings made it clear they did not want to lose Flores. They put serious money on the table. Reports mention more than $6 million per year. That is top-of-the-market money for a coordinator. I read that and thought, okay, now they finally understand his value. Elite defense does not magically appear, especially battling in the NFC North every single yard. But money alone does not fix everything. If he felt more secure after the leadership change, that is a clear signal. The next general manager has to provide stability. He has to earn the trust of scouting, and he has to align with the coaching staff. Otherwise, this turns into another saga, and nobody can handle that. I want your take. Do you think Flores was right to push things this far, or was it too risky for the team? Tell me in the comments, and stay with me, because now the conversation shifts to the team's biggest star, and he spoke about the Super Bowl without holding back. Now let me talk to you about something that messes with the head of every Vikings fan. When the biggest name on offense talks about the Super Bowl, you cannot pretend it is just another interview quote. There is emotion there. There is frustration. And there is a hidden message. Justin Jefferson spoke about watching Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, and he did not hide how tough it is. At the same time, he showed real respect for Darnold's journey, a player who was doubted and found his way back. Then comes the part that stings. Jefferson said he is rooting for Seattle to win. I read that and thought, yeah, that tracks. But it still hits, because we remember Darnold was ours. That story could have been written here. Jefferson made it clear he wanted to experience that with Minnesota, but the Vikings chose a different path. They bet on J.J. McCarthy, and it did not click. There were flashes of hope, sure, but there were too many stalled drives, too many passes off rhythm, and when the quarterback position struggles, the guy running perfect routes pays the price. To be honest with you, what stands out most is how Jefferson speaks with warmth but also brutal honesty. He praises Darnold, yet you can hear that quiet question, why not here? That is human. That is locker room reality. And that is exactly how fans in purple and gold feel. Then there are the cold numbers we try to ignore, but they scream. In 2024, with Darnold, Jefferson went off. Over 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. In 2025, with quarterback instability, his production dropped sharply. The touchdown drop hurts the most, because he is still elite. Without consistency at the most important position on offense, it looks like he disappeared. He did not. He was suffocated. That is when the conversation nobody wants starts happening. How long will he tolerate this? It is not that he is banging on the table right now. It is that the entire league sees a talent like this, and it assumes he wants to compete for championships every year. And those of us who live and breathe Vikings football know patience runs thin when a team keeps spinning its wheels. I will say this from the stands. This is where you get a fan's read that goes beyond the headline. When a star talks like this, he is telling you how he feels, and he knows the clock is ticking. Hold tight because the next story hits that exact nerve. Trade talk surfaced that, if it becomes real, turns the Vikings upside down. You know the kind of rumor that makes your hand sweat on the remote? This is that one. Because it is not about scheme or fine-tuning. It is about ripping into the heart of the offense. Over the past few days, trade chatter started circulating involving a superstar everyone recognizes, but I will not drop the name right away. First, look at the setup. The Vikings finished with a 9-8 record, they missed the playoffs, and they ended the season with more questions than answers at quarterback. Then leadership changes, the salary cap tightens, and the entire league starts sniffing around. Now here it is. The name tied to this is Justin Jefferson, and the destination being mentioned is the Buffalo Bills. From Buffalo's side, the logic is simple. They want to fix their wide receiver problem once and for all. With Joe Brady stepping in as head coach, it makes sense he would target someone he knows and who can flip an offense in 2 snaps. Jefferson paired with Josh Allen would be a nightmare for any defense. That is just the truth. There is also that connection. Brady and Jefferson go back to LSU. That smooths the transition, the language, the trust. In Buffalo, Jefferson would also take pressure off Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman. That gives them room to develop. And Allen would finally have that throw it up and let him fix it target. I will admit it, just picturing it sends a chill, a bad chill for us. But the painful question is on our side. Why would the Vikings do this? And I will be clear, without sugarcoating it. When a team is unsure about its quarterback, the biggest offensive talent becomes a flame. It can either burn out or set the locker room on fire. If McCarthy does not take the leap, frustration grows. Fans feel it, players feel it, and rumors turn into real pressure. Some argue trading him now avoids future drama. Better to sell before it becomes a soap opera. I understand the logic, but it is cold because Jefferson is not just production, he is identity. He is the face of stubborn hope in purple and gold. The other argument is draft capital. If the Vikings truly believe they need to chase a better quarterback or surround McCarthy with more help, picks become ammunition. But ammunition misses too, and I have seen that movie in Minnesota more times than I care to remember. It is the moment where you gain picks and lose the guy who converts 3rd and 8. What worries me most is the message underneath it all. If this chatter is real, it means people around the league believe the Vikings might budge. That shows how instability at the top, combined with lack of results, opens the door for others to try and pry away your stars. So sit with this. It is not just trade or no trade. It is what this says about direction, about patience, about ambition. And from here on, everything we talked about today collapses into one question that keeps pounding in your head. I will tell you what is really hitting me today. When the quarterback room turns into a desperate search for answers, when the general manager's seat still feels unsettled, and when even Brian Flores needed assurances to stay, the message is clear. The Vikings are at a crossroads. Then you hear Justin Jefferson talk about the Super Bowl with that bittersweet tone. Right after that, trade rumors with the Bills pop up. This is not noise. This is pressure. Here's my statement. If the Vikings do not get the front office and the quarterback position right now, the window closes faster than anyone wants to admit. And no fan base in purple and gold can survive living in almost every year. Defend the North is not a slogan. It is a commitment. So I want to hear from you, honestly. Drop a comment. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Do you keep Jefferson at all costs, even if the offense risks stalling again? Or would you consider a massive trade to reset and search for a new path? And stay alert, because the next few weeks will show who is really in charge and where this team is headed. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings. Let's go.